Congressional Republicans say Democrats are playing politics with the payroll tax, delaying a deal to extend it to keep the issue alive.
Really, it's not productive to engage in politics of division. We ought to be about multiplication here. The gentleman knows very well my position, and it is the position of our conference. We do not want to see taxes going up on hard-working taxpayers.
Right now, the only ones blocking an agreement are Senate Democrats and the president. It's time for them to act.
Congressman Steve Israel of New York is in charge of getting Democrats elected as chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and he joins us now here from Washington. Congressman Israel, thanks for being on the program.
Sure. Good to be with you.
Let's start off with a lot of the criticism that's going at you guys from the GOP on the payroll tax cut issue. They've been very much open about putting what they would cut in order to make sure the payroll tax cut extension is paid for. How come Democrats have not put out solid pay-fors, aside from saying they would possibly see a surtax on millionaires, which has not garnered traction before?
Well, what's wrong with asking millionaires to do a little bit more in order to protect tax cuts for the middle class? Look, I watch Eric Cantor. I watch Speaker Boehner. I like him personally. Little too early for April Fool's Day for them to stand up and say that we're the ones who are blocking progress on a middle-class tax cut, when in fact we're the ones who wanted to extend it for a year, and we're the ones who said let's not ask the middle class to pay for a middle-class tax cut. Let's ask people making over $1 million to help pay for it. Let's ask oil companies to help pay for it. What is it about the middle class that they despise so much that they will not pass a middle-class tax cut unless it's based on cuts to the middle class and tax increases by the middle class? I don't know what it is about the middle class that they are so hostile to. This could be solved in a day. We can extend it for a year. Let's just ask people who are making over $1 million a year to pay a small surcharge on that portion of their income that exceeds $1 million.
Could $1 million surcharge get through the United States Senate?
Well, look, the House of Representatives has an obligation to pass legislation that is fair, that is bold, that is balanced. If there are going to be Republicans in the United States Senate who are going to take the same position as House Republicans, that a middle-class tax cut has to be held hostage to protecting the rich, then it won't pass. But you got to start somewhere, and this is where we should start. Here's the difference between us. Here's where the Republicans start. You want a middle-class tax cut? Cut Medicare. You want a middle-class tax cut? Cut programs and investments in the middle class. Here's where House Democrats start. Let's do a middle-class tax cut, and let's start by asking people over $1 million to pay a little bit more on that portion of their income over $1 million. There's a big difference between those two starting points.
Another issue that's making a lot of headway in Washington this week is that of the birth control mandate that President Obama went forward on. John Larson, a good friend of yours who's head of the Democratic caucus, wrote in a letter to Kathleen Sebelius of HSS the following, quote, "I understand and support their concerns. I believe that further flexibility needs to be granted to religiously affiliated organizations." There's a lot of Democrats who are breaking ranks on this, Congressman. You have folks like Bob Casey in Pennsylvania, Tim Kaine in Virginia, both from swing states. You're in charge of getting Democrats elected to the House, this drive for 25 that we've heard so much about. How does this issue play in places like Ohio, places like Pennsylvania, places like Western and upstate New York, where you guys need to sweep in order to get to that 25? This can't be a good issue for you.
Luke, there's no question that there's a pretty strong range of opinion on both sides of this issue. You know, frankly, if you take a look at most of the polling, majority of people agree that if you happen to be a woman who's teaching at a Catholic hospital, you shouldn't be denied access to contraception. So a majority of people agree with that. But I fully understand that this is a kind of issue that is, as Mark said, contentious and complicated. And maybe there are ways to work it out. But I will also say this, that the people in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in other states where we are competing, they want focus on job creation. They want focus on how you rebuild the middle class. They want us to be focusing on reigniting the American dream. And for as long as Republicans stand up there and say that they will not give a tax cut to the middle class unless the rich are protected, that's where they continue to have these challenges. So let's have a legitimate dialogue on this issue, but at the same time, let's stay focused on rebuilding the middle class, reigniting the American dream, and creating jobs and protecting the middle class.
Congressman Steve Israel of New York, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.